your mindset is whistle while you work, you can cross mountains and deserts. It really helps you for the long game.
This is like we're getting a master class here.
How do you learn these skills if you're not going to get the practice of 100 calls a day?
You watch this podcast.
That's the sort of game that you play. If not, then we become AI chatbots, script reading robots. Or you could be that last person in the town square that's still willing to sing and dance and give a live show for a quarter.
So when you did move to Costa Rica, what was your first reaction?
Family-oriented, neighbors know one another, kisses on the cheek, walking arm in arm.
How do you foster atmosphere of fun where people stay and enjoy their work?
And if you're working on a campaign that's inbound retention, you could have knives thrown at you on every single phone call.
We should show this video to all of our employees.
You can gauge their tone of voice compared to who's this, compared to who's this. You see the difference?
Erika, I thought you would be nicer.
Well, I'm supposed to be the difficult.
You know the plane's going down. We'll judge chaos during character. You were landing shots on me left and right in the kisser. Dead center no shots. Did I drop? I didn't drop, but I took the hits. You had a couple rib shots, man. You were beating me up, Erika.
You find a call successful if the customer says your name in the body of the call.
I keep chipping away at readjustments of the tone and keep saying your name over and over again. So you're nice back. And as Erika proved us earlier, I still was able to ride that horse for...
In today's episode, we're talking to Richard, an expat entrepreneur living in Costa Rica.
We'll delve into how he started a call center company and grew it to over 150 employees in just a few years.
Stick till the end to learn how the buffer boomerang technique can help you handle difficult conversations and why pinball machines are the secret to retaining rock star employees. Richard, what mission are you on?
My mission is to pay it forward, Erika. I just want to make sure that I can elevate and assist as many people in my life as possible. Because I believe in physics, action, reaction. If I put out happy, maybe double happy comes back.
Well, that's a great mission. How are you going about achieving that?
I pay small compliments to people. Besides just opening doors for individuals when they're not expecting it. I like to, when you see a name tag, mention somebody's name. They're not invisible. They feel a little bit special. Or even just waving at someone and smiling makes a difference when you're walking in the mall. I mean, I can give you some specific missions I may be on. I'd like to write children's books, retire one day, travel with my wife. But if you're talking about first downs, checkpoints, little wins that add up like quarters in a jar where you can play arcade games later that day. Well, I like to have happy days. I like to jump clouds. And I'm just not going to gauge my life on how much money I earn today. And strangers are friends you haven't met yet. It's very nice if you see the same people in your neighborhood over and over again to have some class and introduce yourself. You're going to see them every day. Just don't be a bad neighbor. And little by little, you start seeing that your network is made of you waving hi to 50 people on a daily basis because you have a ton of new friends. And so life is beautiful that way. Life is fun.
Oh, that's great advice.
I guess we should add some context and bring up the fact that he's in Costa Rica.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, coming from New York City, where you get so used to being surrounded by thousands and thousands of strangers and never talking to them.
Like the joke in the stand-up comedy club we went to, right? The guy was like, "How are you?" And I was like, "Don't tell me how to feel." Or something like that, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's good advice to keep in mind. And but to get to your point about the context.
Yeah, let's add some context.
Does this mission to pay it forward and live a happy life, does that tie into your move to Costa Rica?
Absolutely. I had a 1 in a million opportunity when I was 27 years old. After I graduated the University of Arizona, and I was in between jobs. Now, I'm originally a Northeast Philly boy, and no one in my family speaks Spanish. So I decided to make Spanish my major in college and not follow in certain family footsteps of Harvard Law, Washington and Lee, or even Columbia Business School. I didn't have the grades or maturity. And so really, it's about timing, opportunity, and the butterflies, because you are given only so many chances. I mean, how many times do people have to wake me up that this is it? And so coming here was a wonderful experience. I had momentum. I was bilingual. I was open-minded. And I was ready to shed some skin and see if I can, in my late 20s, not be reborn again, but in a certain mature way, see if I could grow and try something fresh and new. And it really was one of the best decisions I've made in my entire life.
Was that your first job?
Oh, no. My first job, how far back do we want to go? In fact, my first real job, if you think about it, was raising money for East Abington Little League. So they'd give you a box of chocolate and you'd walk around the neighborhood knocking on doors. And this is back in the 70s and it's $1 a candy bar. What's that, like $20 now? But these ladies were so nice because they'd like, who is it? And I'd say it's Richard. That cute little 8-year-old Richard. Of course they'd buy like 3 or 4 or just give me money and say I'm cool and just send me on my way. And my father said, listen, you sold 100 candy bars. Why don't you keep the cash? I'll pay for your uniform. And that was a very cool thing my dad did. He really taught me hard work, merit, and, closing 100 deals. And so that was my first job. But if you really want to talk about real working, maybe it was on Delaware Avenue in Philadelphia during the summers when I was a waiter at Rock Lobster till I got fired. And then I went down to the Aztec Club and Kokomo Bay. Rock Lobster fired me because I cut a piece of cheesecake too big. I don't know how to cut cheesecake. It looked like a trapezoid. I don't know what I'm doing. I wanted a good tip, but they fired me. And then Frankie at the bar says, Richie, why don't you come down the street and work with us at the Aztec Club? This was one of the funniest transitions I've ever seen in my entire life, from like preppy, on the water club to Philadelphia, like nightlife club. I mean, this was great. So you got to meet everybody, but that was like my first real job. And I really didn't have the maturity to understand about waitering and things like that. I just had a personality and I smile. And for some crazy reason, they gave me the good tables. But that was the beginning of it, my friends. That was the beginning of me realizing that the sky's the limit. If you hustle, if you build relationships, you could earn more money than just minimum wage.
Fair enough. So when you did move to Costa Rica, what was your first initial reaction?
The warm weather, right? And how lush it was. And it's real rainforest. This is the real deal. It's like a painting. But what I saw, it was like going back in time. There's a lot of God-fearing people here, family-oriented, neighbors know one another, kisses on the cheek, walking arm in arm. It's beautiful. It's a nice culture. And so the things that were important to me in Philadelphia in the Northeast sometimes don't mean anything here. So you just need to show your essence. But the cost of living's great. And the farmer's market on the weekends, the kind of foods you can eat for a fraction of the cost. The fact you don't need heating or air conditioning if you live in the valley. And once again, just the excitement of speaking a second language every day was fresh. And I didn't want to go back to Philadelphia, especially when the first winter came and I saw the weather. I definitely wanted to stay. And, I fell in love with a Costa Rican girl. And I was fighting to stay here so I could continue this relationship and eventually marry her. And little did we know, we started this company together. It's a nice whirlwind story. But my first impression was this chance and this opportunity. And if I blew it, I would regret it. And to live each day as if it were my last, because it could have been any time. And so I guess I'd stay up late and get up early and volunteer to go on any sort of trip. It was almost like that movie with Jim Carrey where he just said yes to everything. I wanted to drink as much life as I could in the short amount of time initially that I was here.
We interviewed Joan, right? Mm-hmm. And she was in Yaco. Mm-hmm. Where are you in Costa Rica?
I'm in San Jose, and Jaco is about a good hour and a half south.
Oh, Jaco, yes.
It's a nice, fun town.
Short on how to pronounce it.
Yeah, we did a short. I told you.
Trust me, I got you, buddy. But listen, if you're looking for fun, that's the place to be. A little bit further south is Hermosa for surfing, and then you have Manuel Antonio, which is a gorgeous national park. And it really is for anybody that likes ecotourism. There's so many different things that you can do and explore.
Yeah, I'm interested to know your entrepreneurship journey. Erika, did you have another question before we get into that?
Well, I first wanted to talk, it sounded like the transition to Costa Rica while amazing, did have some challenges, perhaps. Could you speak more to whether there were significant challenges
Where
to
did you
becoming
pick that up from? That there were challenges?
Maybe
Well,
I misread what you're saying, but
I thought
no,
it was all hunky dory.
it's really about how you look at it. The main challenge that I had was parents' guilt. I had a family business back in the United States, and there were expectations there. I'm not saying I was a black sheep, but I wanted to, click my heels and see what could happen in this beautiful life. And so, my argument for my family prior to living here full time was that my great grandparents came from Eastern Europe to the United States at the turn of the 20th century. They lived in New York, they lived in Brooklyn, they were in the garment industry, and they learned English, and we made our money during the Depression. And so it's in our blood. We're nomads. And if great grandpa didn't come, we wouldn't be here today. So everyone needs to calm down a little bit. And I think the worst thing you could ever do, because my intentions are honorable, is take the spark out of somebody. You see that I have invested my life in Spanish. I do the dedicated practice. So I do above and beyond what school asked me to do. And you have to give me a shot at it. You got to see what I can do. And little did I know that I was not a business major. So what's the second challenge? Being a CEO of a company. When I worked at my friend's center, I learned everything minus C-level. But then again, that's probably the better experience because I learned retention and onboarding, human resources, customer support, search engine optimization, sales, CRM systems, headsets, you name it. And sometimes when you're in an ivory tower or you're a CEO that's more than busy, you don't kind of understand the levels and the foundation below you. Why was that my advantage? Well, when it was time for me in my mid-30s to throw my hat in the ring because I was getting old and I just wanted to see if I could earn a living, because I was in between things. I started my company. And I did it by renting a turnkey station at a blended center, so I didn't have the large outlay of building a center. After 2 years of stability with clients and capital, I rented space and bought used equipment. You can scale that way too. And 6 years ago, I purchased a building, put on a third floor, and this is my current location. And so it was slow and steady, it was cash only. I didn't need to make desperate decisions or have shady partners. I could also be extremely selective of the campaigns that came in. So I could make sure to fulfill the needs and have the agents want to work on it. But the main secret was the empathy and the dignity. Call center, people burn out. And I'm in a minority. Most people do not like telemarketers. Not only am I one, but I'm a general of an army. So, look at it like this. But I wanted to do it differently. I didn't want to compromise ethics and values. We don't sling stock or do sweepstakes scams. What we try to do is retain clients and make these agents more marketable and self-reliant with really good, stable vocabulary and diplomacy. And I have not forgotten the art of speech. Most people prefer things that are omnivoice non-channel support versus just texting and emails. I believe in pressing zero and speaking to a live person. And
you talk a lot about fostering a positive, fun culture in your company. And I know the stereotype, at least that I think of working in a call center, is that it's kind of easy to burn out quickly. So how do you foster a atmosphere of fun where people stay and enjoy their work?
it's an excellent question. Most important thing is right bus, right seat. I don't want to force a fit. And that's squeezing somebody out. They'll quit because of that. But let's also be realistic. This industry could seem monotonous to people. And if you're working on a campaign that's inbound retention, you could have, knives thrown at you on every single phone call and frustrated clients, and it sucks the energy out of you. So once again, I'm exceptionally selective of what I choose. So at least it can add some life to it. But we work a lot on soft skills, things in order to readjust tones. So you're just not reading script, you're more in the now. It's a nice dance, a give and take. I'll give you an example. Instead of saying, excuse me, usually we fall on the sword and say, for my clarification. Yeah, why not, right? And we also like to do positive escalation. So if someone assists us or transfers the call to a decision maker, we'll let them know, the owner of the company, verbally, this person was amazing. We'll also do it in writing. So when you happen to call the company back, the gatekeeper will thank me for that compliment, add to my momentum, and give me more of their company culture. So I can't compromise ethics. I'm not going to teach it a lie. I'm not going to do Wolf of Wall Street and these Hollywood movies. We just won't do things like that. But there's no reason why we can't master the art of tie-down questions, confirmation questions, focusing on anchoring and transitional sentences. I don't like to commission an artist. If an individual has a flow or a certain style or a beauty mark, you got to let them roll with it. And I'm just trying to cultivate that sort of individuality where we're all superheroes, but we all have our own special sauce. And if I can get that out of somebody and be that proper mentor to them, they're good for the rest of their life. And so that's what I try to do to keep the art of speech and to make it fresh. If not, you're just going to see this as a grind, a forced march, and you just can't wait to bounce this job and go to the next one that might pay an extra $5. And it's an interesting industry, my friends.
Yeah. Can you explain? You mentioned transitioning and anchoring. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's quite simple. I mean, for an example, you guys are in New York. I was Philadelphia. We can definitely talk about that. 1,000 things, from the weather to the Flyers being better than the Rangers and the Islanders and all that good stuff. But for me, it's really about landing that first 30 seconds, because I could start introducing myself and asking to speak with somebody, but you sound like a salesperson. So, you like to say the name of the company first. Real stories, real advice. How are you today? I sound like I'm a mystery shopper. I've been there before. Okay. And at least it's something that you've heard. And I'm starting strong. It's only 3 seconds. And then there's a buffer boomerang technique that we have here. That's usually can you see that where we readjust tones?
Yeah.
Yeah, buffer boomerang. I'm going to buffer by name dropping you, Erika. Then I'm going to say, that's an excellent question. The name of my company is Costa Rica's call center. Of course, they're going to ask you a question. I'm going to say, real stories, real advice. Who's this? Thank you so much for asking. My name is Richard Blank. Who is Richard Blank? Once again, great question. Look at this. You're looking at establishing in the first 30 seconds, reducing a defense from at least a 10 to a 5. So you don't get the quick hang up, because that's a joke. Now you're just slinging arrows and hoping something hits. We talk about romantic deaths. We talk about jumping clouds. Why? Because I can't guarantee 100 pitches a day till the end of the call, but I can guarantee 130 second to a minute pitch. And if I can do a company name spike, which I did, a buffer boomerang technique at least twice with my name and my company's name, and then if I readjust the tone of Kathy that gets black and blue all day from all these phone calls trying to get through to you guys, they realize that I might have done my due diligence by looking at your website or a LinkedIn profile, so I can custom make a voicemail or an email or something about you. And then if I get to pass the pitch and I get transferred, I'm going to let her know how amazing she was. And then when I get transferred to you, before I even say anything about myself, I'm going to let you know how great your person that works with you. And most of the time, it's either a family member, they've been there forever, and no one ever says anything about Kathy. And so I'm starting so strong. So strong. I don't even talk about business yet. Of course, by default, they might not be interested in something. There's 1,000 reasons why. But just like Chuck Wepner with Muhammad Ali, I'm going distance. If anything or nothing, I'm going at least in a minute or two, like Scooby-Doo in a cave. I'm going to get in there. And if you hang up on me and say, listen, we just do not need telemarketers. We don't make phone calls. But Richard, nice meeting you. Hey, man, I did great. I did 3 or 4 nice moves on that call, and I didn't lose my rhythm. And that's what you do. You master the intro, because the body and the conclusion just do not exist. It just doesn't exist unless you anchor and land the intro. I guess my biggest tip is, if you're speaking to somebody and you hear a dog in the background, Now you're giving me a wiffle ball pitch. That's an immediate anchor. I'm going to say, hey guys, I love dogs. You're like, yeah, me too. I can't hear you because the dog's barking. I'm going to say, what's the dog's name? What breed is it? And how old is your puppy? Oh, come on, the puppy's 12 years old. It doesn't matter. So they put the dog out, they come back, and then they thank Richard for being patient. Of course, Richard's patient. Now we talk about your dog for 5 minutes, and you ask about anchoring. That's the easiest way to meet people, is to put your script away and just to find something that's real. So you're a painting and you're not a print, like most of these phone calls that these people are getting on a daily basis.
I'm trying to understand the buffer boomerang. Erika, did you understand it? Like you name, like you're talking to a brand new
You got the
person.
buffer boomerang. The first question they're going to say is, who are you? And a lot of the times they might say it with a bad attitude. So I'm going to buffer your -2 attitude. And I'm going to say, hey, Abi, that's an excellent question. My name is Richard Blank. You always buffer the negativity with the name drop. You love know it's a great question. You brought it up.
I see.
Repeat the question for active listening and then send it back in a positive way. Does it happen? Probably about 10 times on a call, but it especially happens 2 times in the beginning. Who are you? What's the name of your company? And those are 2 immediate buffer boomerangs. But you can gauge their tone of voice compared to who's this, compared to who's this. You see the difference? So that to me tests the water to see if my company name spike was enough to snap you out of your trance to hang up on your 99th that day and to allow me to potentially seem like an existing client or your best friend or a family member. You got to have a little more respect on the phone when you're answering it. You never know who is calling you. The iceberg's calling you. You should answer everybody chipper and happy and sunshine. The fact that I'm saying the name of your company better than you do is a good reality check, and it snaps them out of it. And then they say, hey, who's Mr. Nice Guy? And I let them know Mr. Nice Guy without my company name yet, because I want to double dip in regards to the positive reinforcement on the adjustment of the tone. So do you see how I set my calls in the beginning?
Right. No,
Maybe
that's
we
should show this video to all of our employees.
But it's jumping clouds. It's romantic deaths. All you're doing is not compromising ethics or lying. I'm saying the name of your company and answering my name twice by using a buffer boomerang technique.
No, that's genius.
I'm wondering, maybe we could do an example call.
Yeah,
to
let's
see
do.
how
Let's
it
do.
plays out
Yeah.
in real life.
As in, also you act like an angry, grouchy person. And
Oh, do you want me to be the angry? I'd love to be the client.
No. You're the one calling. You're the Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh, and I'm calling an angry client.
Yeah, her.
Okay, I'm trying to get through to Erika. Is that right? And
Yeah.
you'll be the gatekeeper?
Yes.
Yeah. No, well,
Okay.
no. You reached Erika, but Erika is not in a good mood.
Okay, Erika, you ready to go 15? Hey, what part of New York are you from anyway, if we're really going to find out how this is going to go down?
Well, we're from the city.
What part of New York technique are we talking about here?
We're in the financial district.
Okay, all right, because my mom grew up in Westchester. I know that technique. So, all right.
Although
Okay,
I'm
ring.
from Chicago.
So,
I'm
yeah.
not actually a New Yorker.
Yeah. Well, but you lived there for 10
Yeah.
years, so that qualifies you as a New Yorker.
Yeah, that still counts. Okay, Erika, so I'm calling you. Ring. You answer the phone.
Hello?
Hello, Erika?
That's it. You probably
Real advice. How are things going today?
I'm fine.
I'm in a meeting right now.
Yeah, I'm in a meeting right now. Who is this?
Well, I'm so happy that I called you. Erika, that's a great question. My name is Richard Blank.
Okay, how can I help you? I only have a few minutes.
Exactly. Thank you so much for giving me the time. My name is Richard Blank with Costa Rica's call center, and I got your information from a good friend of mine that said you may be interested in telemarketing services.
No, we're not interested. We're good for now.
You're good for now. Well, that's great. Well, let me ask you a question. Since I saw your podcast online, I'm sure you're getting a lot of phone calls, people that want to book or have you booked. Who's answering those calls for you, Erika? Because when I called your company, you're picking up the phone. I figured at least there'd be 5 lines of salespeople and customer support to assist me. How can you juggle everything at the same time?
I'm okay. We have enough staff right now, but I really have to get to my next meeting.
Well, that's great. Well, let me ask you one last question. Have you ever been to Costa Rica before?
No, I haven't.
Well, I'm calling you from Central America, and you're important enough for a 3,000-mile phone call. I'm sure you never gotten a call from Central America before.
No, I haven't.
Well, at least it's a first. Why don't I do this? I have your email on file. I know that you're about to jump into another project, but once again, this information was referred to me from somebody that said you may be in the market. So why don't I do this? I'll send my information to you, all the bells and whistles. I'm sure there'll be something that you're interested in. And at your convenience, please feel free to get back in touch.
Okay, yes, you can send me an email.
Wonderful. And once again, my name is Richard Blank with Costa Rica's call center, and your email address was Erika at realstoriesrealadvicepodcast.com. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Fantastic. And is this the best phone number to reach you at as well? Or is there another direct extension?
I know this number is fine.
Perfect. And once again, if the information is something you like, do you think there might be a good time for us to circle back and speak again?
You could just send an email and I can follow up with you from there.
That sounds like a plan. Erika, I thank you so much for taking my call. You're off to your next meeting. And once again, I do look forward to speaking with you soon.
All right. Have a good day.
Erika, I thought you would be nicer.
Well, I'm supposed to be the difficult
Well, you're
client.
What did
supposed
Erika
to
do
start
for
out
me
difficult
today?
and-
Yo, Erika, you didn't hang up on me. I know that you're going into a meeting. I still got you for 3 minutes. And guess what I sold for? I sold for information. Por lo menos, I sent you an email. I didn't sell for time, but I sold for information. So what is that to me? Half court shot, right? You're in a pipeline, but it's a warm lead, not a hot lead. You didn't hang up on me. I mentioned a couple things that at least separate me from somebody else. You've never received a call from Costa Rica before. I won that one right there. You were recommended, but you never asked me who recommended you. That's quite interesting. How the hell did I get your name and number? But then if I said it's your buddy Joanne that you play tennis with, you're like, oh, it's Joanne? That's a different story. I mean, a lot of the times people do say, how did you get my name? And so you have to let them know. I mean, I'm not shady like that. But what I would have done in the email was mention who recommended you and why and stuff. But I didn't want to press. And I tell you what, if I got to do 100 calls like that a day, fine, because that's panning for gold. If I can handle 3 minutes happy when Erika's got to go and meetings, but Erika didn't go. Erika should have hung up immediately. You didn't hang up immediately. So if you don't hang up immediately, you are still at least doing something where you know the plane's going down. We'll judge chaos during character. You were landing shots on me left and right in the kisser. Dead center no shots. Did I drop? I didn't drop, but I took the hits. You had a couple rib shots, man. You were beating me up, Erika. Beating me up. But I took it, didn't I? Because to answer your question earlier, how do you hold back people from burning out? Well, man, if you do that 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, 160 hours a month of taking those sort of Erika calls, it's going to kill you. But if you see that you did some sort of stable structure during that time, the only one that can sew a heart, land a plane when everyone else is losing it, my goodness gracious, the moment you get that individual on the phone that is ready, kind of like the Pursuit of Happiness movie where he flipped the list, called the millionaire, and got the thing. Come on, Erika, you're a real person like anybody else. Gotta respect that. But yeah, I'm glad that you didn't give me the deal Because just like in The Wolf of Wall Street, they always say, don't judge me on the accounts that I get or on the ones that I lost. So what do you want me to do? Pull a rabbit out of my hat and start lying and making up things and promising you contractual terms? This was a flat out cold call from a warm list of some guy that's yelling at me to make another phone call. And so what does somebody do in that sort of situation? They, at least when they send Erika the email, they have that due diligence that they did. So maybe, just maybe, you'll see that I know about your anniversary, your third location, that loading dock, or just something that just separates me from others. And, we just take it from there. I might call you back in 6 months if I don't hear from you in 3, and I'd say, it's Richard from Costa Rica. I know you remember me, Erika. And you go, oh my God, it's you again. But you remembered me, didn't you, Erika? You did.
Like, if someone from Costa Rica is making that call, who is like born there, they would have an accent, right? So when they call Erika, wouldn't Erika know, like, her first reaction will be, oh, I know it's a sales call because it's not even someone from the US, so probably someone who I don't know. So don't they have to work even harder?
Your accent is in the United States as much as a Latino one or an Asian one or anyone. The United States is a melting pot. So it's, for me today, once again, anyone could be anywhere. And the Latino market's growing. But how about this, my good friend? You got a cool accent. I see it as
that's
like
the reason why I don't make outbound phone calls.
You're funny. Listen, your English is phenomenal. And an accent to me is like a beauty mark, because the worst thing ever is just that sort of, for me, I sometimes overemphasize the Philly to make my point. But anyone that's bilingual, like how many languages do you speak?
I speak 3.
Exactly. You know that bears the mark of higher education and dedication and structure. Look how long that takes. And you should be very proud of that. And your accent, there's nothing wrong with it. But just like, as I say, people might associate that with a certain type of call center worker or an industry or things like that. And to me, I just judge people on merit. The world's so small today. And to judge people on that initial thing, you should acknowledge it and notice it. But it shouldn't be your final judgment. It's just another color in the crayon box. And maybe it might be something you never tried before.
No, I'm just saying, is it harder for them to stay calm under pressure when they are trying to stay calm in a second language? That's what I wanted to know.
I believe so, because as you know, there's more intense concentration when you're translating. If it's in your native tongue, you can be passive. And so if you're looking at these periods of time where they're doing the translation and they are speaking, there's less room for error and distraction. And so really reducing some of that stress with cognitive skills is what I like. But it's practice. We have scripts with rebuttals. Send me information. Why should I do business with you? As you say, I'm busy going into a meeting, things like that. And so we'll have things written down. And when they practice it, what they can do is, as I was trying to do, is anchor by using names. I could say, I know you're busy, I'll send you information, but I'm going to say Erika just for a second, just to calm everyone down, and then make my point. It's, as I say, there can be stability when there's unstable ground. You just got to find how to readjust yourself, because things are moving so fast. But I tell you what, if this is the sort of thing that beats you up so bad, you shouldn't be in this industry. It's not for the faint of heart. But I'm also not saying it is the worst thing in the world. The problem that I find is that people will take things from outside the office into the office. So if they're fighting with their wife at home, or their mother is sick, or they have some sort of issue with their electricity bill, they're going to have the worst day on the phone that day. And they are completely losing their ability to be in the moment in that spark. And just like in warfare or in boxing or anything else, it just takes 1 second. to kill that call. And so that's my main thing is do I have to put some water on their face, give them some coffee, or just a timeout to play some Pac-Man and pinball just to readjust themselves.
But how do you even know that they're in a bad state today?
We have a quality control department. So immediately you can see talk time. I mean, once again, if someone is rushing a call, they're hanging up, or if they're going too long, they're just not listening. And you have people that are either around them or the monitors that will let you know that something is off. If it's a brand new agent, I don't know them. But if it's someone that's been with me and I have a luxury of a track record, I can easily compare it to other times and other metrics. And but we have preventative measures. We do touch base with everybody in the mornings and just see how they're doing that day and what's happening. But this is, once again, an exceptionally demanding job. It's frontline. But if you can accustom your mind and body to it, as I say, you'll have these advanced skills. But I've seen people that have just spiderwebbed and spun out of control, and the next thing you know, they're either cursing on the phone or just can't take it anymore. I've even seen grown men cry. And it's you have empathy towards them. You realize it's nothing personal, they're just breaking. And there's really, you have limitations on what you're capable of doing with them.
Yeah, fair enough.
So you are saying it is a difficult job. So how do you screen people when you're hiring, and then how do you train them so that they can excel and it's not a stressful job?
Exactly. Two types. I'll take people that have industry experience, Concentrix, Teleperformance, Amazon. They'll come here, and that's great. And I'll look to see how long they worked on a campaign and what type, inbound or outbound. But then I'll also take someone that's never worked at a call center before. They might have gone to private school or university, but they don't have bad habits. It could be like a squire to a knight. It's very easy to teach someone a CRM system and how to type and stuff. But maybe when they're filling out the resumes and they're giving me their qualifications, which to me are just bells and whistles, I ask them to turn their paper over, Erika, and I ask them to write me a couple paragraphs of my coming of age moment. I got to know if they beat up a bully or saved a kitten, or if you guys happen to ask somebody on a phone call a real human question, are they capable of answering it and living in the moment? And I just want to see their depth so I can give them a nickname or pick them up on a rainy Wednesday. And that's one of the easier filters for me. And secondly, my game room. I'm not hiring thousands. I'm only 150 strong, so I can be very selective with the agents. My company culture revolves around gamification. It really does. I'm not forcing you to play the games. But if you don't like pinball, I can't hire you. I really can't, because then I can't hang out with you. I'm being dead serious. And so I want somebody to be able to loosen a tie and to yuck it up and to just be a little loose, because if you're too stiff, it's just never going to work. Someone needs to be vulnerable to be powerful, and it's not laughing at yourself or acting the fool, but just allowing yourself to blend with others.
First, does that mean you play pinball in a job interview? And second, it sounds like you're really high touch with your employees, but you said you have 150.
Yes.
How are you able to have a personal relationship with each of them, and how do you maintain that?
Pre-COVID, it was like high school, high fives in the hallway. But now there's additional individual efforts just to jump on Zooms or to write those emails to them. I mentioned earlier, it's a lot different. Thankfully for me, I had a nice relationship prior to these individuals going home. So they know Richard and we broke bread together. If I had to be realistic, it takes away 70% of the energy, the electromagnetic energy. And that's such a shame. And, but that's just kind of one of the ways to look at it in regards to the agents here. What was the other question? I apologize.
Oh, you said it's important that they're able to play pinball and
the pinball in the job interview. Some people get how about this? If a real rock star walks in the door and I want to hire that person immediately, of course I'm playing pinball with them. But if it's just Billy that's filling out a form and it looks like he's going to be rough on the machine, absolutely not. You got to be kidding me. Especially my 1970 Bally's Camelot. No way. But the air hockey tables in the training room is where usually we have our interviews. So yeah, anyone can play a quick game of air hockey. Why not? But you look at their reaction and what they say. But that is very important for me, especially in training classes where the dozen agents can hang out together before they start training together.
I wanted to go back to your entrepreneurship journey in Costa Rica when you first founded the company.
Mm-hmm.
How has the times changed? Is it easier to start a company in Costa Rica now than you first started? Like, was it like 10, 15 years ago?
Yes. It's quite simple. You just get yourself Sociedad Anónima, an SA, and you register things. You get your company in the Caja for the insurances, and you just get your paperwork. It's really not that difficult. An attorney can assist you. It's very inexpensive as well. My main thing is learning the labor laws. There's a ton of them, and the agents know them very well. And they'll be the first people to go downtown to the ministerios and start complaining. And so there's checklists.
Can you give us an example?
Sure, of course. In regards to the Ministerio de Salud, the health minister, you got to make sure the bathrooms are clean. You have people here that are cleaning the stations and throwing out the trash and disinfectants. That's important. You got to have security here to make sure that people are safe. There's got to be insurance here in case someone falls down stairs or something happens to them. And so these are the sort of things where if you don't have that in place, you can be in a lot of trouble. But for me, it's really, once again, it's about not breaking the law and doing things that are not sweepstakes or, casino, sportsbook related. Nothing against it, just don't do it. And it's the kind of thing where some people are looking for the quick dollar, so they're willing to work at certain jobs that might not be stable or long term. But then there's others that just want to relax and sleep well at night. And so they'll come work with me here. But for me, starting a call center is expensive. And so when I first started in February of 2008, when I landed my first account, I really could only rent a turnkey station at a large internet cafe, like a blended center. There was no privacy, but someone else paid for the server room, the internet, and everything. I was just paying top dollar, about $250 a month for a station. It's a lot of money, especially if you're at like 40 stations, you're overpaying. And so after a couple of years of having stable clients and some money, I said, enough of this top dollar. And I rented space and bought used equipment. And I could do that for about 30% of what the cost was. And I stayed there for 6 years, once again, to build that capital and the stability. And then I had to stop paying rent again. It's expensive. So I bought a building and rolled the final dice. And slow and steady when you do businesses here. Make sure you find the right people to be in the right positions. I prefer, promotion from within, but you do need specialists. But all in all, it's not that expensive to start something here in Costa Rica. It really just depends on what you're looking to do.
Do you also hire expats from the US and Canada, or that's a rare situation?
It's rare, but it's usually someone with dual citizenship. And some of my favorite are individuals that have served in the military that I'm capable of hiring here too.
Yeah. Because then you won't have to train with the English language at least, right? That's what I was thinking.
But how about this? Native speakers are lazy sometimes. I'd rather have someone with a slight accent but peppy personality or fiery vocabulary or just has a spring in their step.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's really not fair because a native speaker down here is walking tall like, the big man on canvas. Like, yo, if you were back in New York, you'd be fifth pick for kickball. Down here, you think you're number one. And you need to sometimes put yourself in your place because there are people here that are so talented on the phone. They're artists of speech. It's beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
How do you measure talent when we're talking about soft skills like conversation?
Well, where I give the most points on a QA call is when the client says my name in the body of the call, not the intro or the conclusion. That's a real connection and an anchor. But it's a lot of this just copious note taking and active listening. You sometimes need in transitional sentences to repeat what the person said. Oh, so you used to live in New York. Okay, so it's Chicago now. Let's talk about where Chicago could be. And so it's great ways just to take, put to bed one, move to another, because the worst thing, and I've seen on calls, is people saying, what did you say? What's the name of your company? Richard who? And that's our fault. You should never have repeats. It means you're cross-talking or you're not speaking well enough. It's one-time shots. It should be easily served bits of information to people. Bedside manner, those sort of soft skills. You can tell when someone's interested in something, so you stop, drop, and roll. You continue with that topic. What I hate is hedging. A lot of the times intake coordinators for certain companies will say great or wonderful when they're repeating information back. Well, a lot of the times the address you're living at is not great, or certain things are not good. So unless they're giving you positive information of a birthday or a home run, a lot of times I'll just repeat it by saying, real stories, real advice. Is that correct? Yes. Thank you. Keep it just like that. And so we don't make mistakes, especially with military alphabet and spelling people's names. We don't want things to bounce back. But soft skills is about cleaning the spill, paying for the bill, and getting out of there, even if you had nothing to do with it. Falling on certain swords and choosing your battles wisely with people. And if you're giving an individual a list of items, you pause in between each, and at the end you'd say, I'm sure you like at least one. You got to at least try. You have to be, it's like the three Goldilocks and the three bears. I don't like aggressive behavior, and passive behavior, you'll stall. It's assertiveness. It's perfect timing and spacings and last pieces of puzzle. And if you're capable of playing that game, your timing could be literally perfect in these calls. So that's why it's more lucid and you're in the now.
Do you think this is something that can be completely taught, or do you need people to have a certain amount of emotional, social intelligence before you can train
EQ.
them? Yeah.
Like meditation, you need to be in the right frame of mind, and you can't play happy if you're sad. You can try. But no, if you do this after 3 weeks, it becomes habit. And it's the beautiful part about this, and a lot of it is just active listening. You can still do your job. You can still type and convert your calls and ask questions. But it's almost like that guy that juggles that can bite the apple as well. There's still room in the cart to do something, or you can upgrade it a little bit. You just don't ask a question. You say the person's name, or as I did in the beginning, the company name spike. And it's so nice to hear you two react when I say the name of your podcast. I know that makes you smile. So imagine if that was the first 3 seconds of the call, if I said it in such an amazing way. It's, it gives the person that works so hard for it, butterflies a little bit. It's a real admiration. They can feel it.
Yeah. You mentioned
Go ahead.
you find a call successful if the customer says your name in the body of the call.
Right.
That's a really interesting metric. Erika, don't you think?
Yeah.
I wonder if like how is that like a natural thing that happens after you use all these techniques, or there's something intentional that you do?
Absolutely there is, because if you think of every composition or interaction, there's an intro, body, and a conclusion. It could happen in a second or for 5 hours in a movie. And so I'm always thinking, when you first call, you're asking me what my name is, right? You name my company, shebang. And then at the end of the call, you're getting my phone number and email to not call me back, or maybe, and you're asking my name again. And I'll really be upset with someone and disappointed if they start asking your name at the end. What a waste. You didn't dance the whole call. But it's usually, remember I mentioned about the dog and how old your puppy and things like that? Right. It's usually in the body of the call, not in my script or my qualification process. It's either the due diligence that I've done, the positive escalation of the person I spoke to, or that dog in the background, music in the background or something, that's when we anchor. And I don't take it personal. Someone comes back, what's your name again? Robert? No, it's Richard blank. Oh, okay, Richard. And then don't kid yourself, 2 seconds later, so Richard, Richard. I'm like, man, I got this guy good. It's almost like water skiing now. He anchored with me. Yeah, but Richard, what about the outcome? That's what you're asking me. It doesn't matter. What outcome? Regardless of the outcome, you connected. Now, if you want to talk business-wise, yeah, your odds of completing that outcome increase 10 times. But how the hell are you going to get there? It's that magic key. It's that moment. And I've been able to do that authentically. And I keep chipping away at readjustments of the tone and keep saying your name over and over again. So you're nice back. And as Erika proved to us earlier, I still was able to ride that horse for a good 3 minutes before you said you had to go, and you still didn't hang up on me. And that's the sort of game that you play. If not, then we become AI chatbots, script reading robots. Or you could be that last person in the town square that's still willing to sing and dance and give a live show for a quarter. And I'm willing to still do that. I'm a minority now. But as I say before, if your mindset is whistle while you work, you can cross mountains and deserts with that sort of mindset. It really helps you for the long game.
How did you learn these techniques initially? Was it through trial and error, or
through books, maybe?
I'll give you 2 things. I'm going to share a huge secret with you. I watched a lot of TV back in the day, all different types of stuff. But my favorite shows, and these were individuals that were huge influences on my speech and delivery. I go as far back as Basil Rathbone from the 30s and 40s. He was with Nigel Bruce and played Sherlock Holmes. This is BBC, and half of his vocabulary were SAT words that I had to look up. So I had no idea what he was talking about, but he sounded great. So that was one of the things that sized me up. I realized that there are players out there that are more poised than I am and have more depth in their vocabulary. So was it intimidating? No, it was a huge wake-up call to step up my game. And then in the mid-'80s, I enjoyed the show Remington Steele with Pierce Brosnan and the A-Team with Dirk Benedict, who played the Face Man. These were very glib speakers. These were individuals that were well prepared. And so once again, adding to vocabulary delivery and just seeing things like that inspired me to continue working on my rhetoric. And then being at the call center, I had the chance to write script, put them out there, see what the reactions are when we're doing 10,000 phone calls, and make slight adjustments. And after you do this for 2 decades, you start seeing the tell signs and certain patterns. And so a lot of it has to be that 10,000 hours to become a master.
Yeah. This is like we're getting a master class here, right?
I hope
we're
it's
learning so much.
And how do you develop this skill set if you're not, say you're not someone who's going to make their career working at a call center or starting a call center, but you are someone that needs to, as you mentioned earlier, there are a lot of frontline workers who really need to be able to communicate with people who are often not in a good state of mind, doctors, anyone in the medical field. How do you learn these skills if you're not going to get the practice of 100 calls a day working with people?
You watch this podcast.
Well, maybe these are the sort of soft skills that can save a marriage or a Thanksgiving dinner. What I like is dedicated practice. Like the Daniel's son and the Karate Kid. Okay, it's not just wax on, wax off. The kid had to be on the boat to practice punches and on that stump to practice the kick. And just like we do with our second and third languages and the other things that we've mastered. But my main thing is luxury of time. If somebody allows you a moment to decompress, to write a draft and not send it to sleep on it, chances are if you're not pressed to give a decision at that moment when your temperature is high, you can readjust. You can realize you've overextended yourself, or see things in a different light when you've slept on it, or as people say, taking that walk or a breath. I agree with that 1,000%. But let's just say you don't have the luxury of time and you're in this battle of words. I would speak second all day long. 2 ears, one mouth. You just keep talking. Talk. That's fine. You're going to gas yourself out. A lot of the times people apologize at the end and say, man, I'm so sorry for over. Do you understand my point? And readjust it there.
Well, before we do the final question, we do have to ask about the machines. Because I know, antique games, pinball machines are important to you. So what are the machines in your background?
Looking at a beautiful 1961 Ricola Regis jukebox in my own private candy stash. But I tell you what, growing up in the 70s and 80s, there was nothing better than a retro arcade with the pinball machines and the other stuff. And so my company landed, I had some money, and I got the space. And a lot of these arcades were going out of business, or people just had them in their bodega a couple hours away. So I bought one, then I bought two, then I bought three. One guy's selling 5. Really? Next thing you know, I'm up to 15 pinball machines, 6 jukeboxes, an air hockey table, and an assortment of other machines. Remember we spoke about dying, falling on swords and dying on hills? Listen, this is the one with my wife that she knows I'm willing to die on. Of course. I love my pinball machines, especially the older ones, the marquees and the play fields, and the bells and the lights. It's just incredible for me, the restoration. You can buy certain parts in the United States for next to nothing if you have the owner's manual. Electricians down here can follow the manual and fix your machines. And so I was picking up stuff for a couple $100, fixing them up for a couple $100. Next thing you know, a $600 investment, I'm sitting on a $5,000 Last Action Hero Data East pinball machine. And so it's not really to resell because they're mine and they're not going anywhere. But there's nothing like a classic pinball machine. My oldest is the 1970 Bally's Camelot. Right next to it's a 71 Expressway. I mean, I have everything right in the middle. But what a beautiful passion. You can get one for less than $1,000 if it's near you in the States, a nice old machine from the 70s and 80s. Put one in your living room, you'd be the most popular person in your neighborhood. But you guys have to come visit and play the games. I think it's amazing.
It's tempting.
Yeah.
Who can say no to Costa Rica and
That's
pinball?
Right.
Maybe when we visit Joan.
Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I think we've learned a lot, and some ways we can step up our game in our company.
We'll have everyone watch this video for sure. Yeah.
I'm not calling anyone out. I'm just letting you know Remington Steele spoke better than I did.
But for anyone who'd like to learn more about you, how can they reach out to you?
That's a great question. Well, they can buy a first-class plane ticket and fly down and come visit me. Or they can go check out my Facebook fan page. We have about 129,000 local Costa Rican ticos. And just real quick for your audience, we're north of Panama, south of Nicaragua. We're the only democratic society in Central America. There's no standing army. They put all their money into education, so there's a 95% literacy rate. So at least they'll get a grasp of the BPO industry here and see some of the craziness. But I can't thank you enough. I had the best time on your podcast today. You guys asked some amazing questions.
Thank you so much. This was really interesting.
Yep,
one of the most interesting interviews we've had recently.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.